I'm Gene Price with Redmond Hunt.
And I'm Kirt Conley with Redmond Hunt. You know, Gene, one of the biggest questions we get every single year from our customers is, why in the world do I even need minerals? And then, I got 160 acres, I got 80 acres. Where should I put a mineral site?
That's a great question, So if you look back through and look at all the different studies and stuff that's been done about minerals, there's never been any conclusive evidence that it makes bigger antlers. Never has. Never been any evidence that it makes healthier deer, in the whitetail world, because in captive world, yes, in wild deer, no. So what we do is we can take from humans, from dairy cattle, which we know a tremendous amount about, the beef industry, horses, things, that we can actually monitor blood levels, we can monitor fecal levels, and we know that the health of the animal increases. And with some good common sense, you do know that minerals are deficient in our soils throughout the Midwest because of farming practices and rain and washing. It all goes down to the Mississippi Delta, where some of the richest minerals in the world are, or soils in the world are. So, I've talked to Brian Murphy about this at QDMA. He actually wrote a book several years ago. It says, the name of the book is Minerals, Necessity or Never Mind. And when I first met Brian, he wasn't a real big fan of minerals. He didn't really think there was much value in them. He thought that the deer would get pretty much whatever they needed out of plant life and stuff like that. Well, after getting knowing Brian a little bit and talking to him about minerals, and what we have found at Redmond, he actually told me one time, he said, my book's pretty outdated. It probably needs some updates done to it. He said, I think there is some true beneficial elements with minerals. And, in talking with Grant, he's like, absolutely, minerals. So I think that mindset from when all these studies were done back in the 70s and 80s and stuff, coming back around the 90s, and now we're into, the 2020s, 2021s, it's been a long time ago since these books have been written, So I think there's a lot more value that they know about now, or we know about, with minerals, with deer. So yeah, I truly believe, I've believed a long time that minerals, are a necessity. There's, with humans, we get put on different type mineral deficiencies we find for hair loss, muscles, all kinds of stuff. Same way with horses, especially in, we're really big, our company is in one division with dairy cattle. And that is one of the truest tests that you'll ever see for calving, for milk production, for overall health. We've seen some of the biggest benefits and farmers have seen, the dairy farmers have seen some of the biggest benefits from feeding our mineral, with that. Most minerals have 7 to 11 that's on the market. Ours is pretty unique. It has, about 70. We always say 65 plus, but it has about 70 different minerals in it. So minerals are so complex, I don't think we'll ever really understand them. It's just like a big spider web. If you have these 3 minerals, it helps this one mineral. If you help this one mineral, it supports these other 10 minerals. And when you support and it just gets so complex, we just don't really know exactly, how it all works. But yeah, as far as minerals being a necessity, I think anywhere, throughout the Midwest, where we farm our ground to near zero, we only put 3 minerals back, MP and K. And we're stripping plants are known to strip, 70 minerals, 60 minerals, and we don't put those back. So yeah, mineral supplementation, in my opinion, and many professional opinions, yeah, you need to be doing it.
So like the second part of that question, so we got this, I just got 80 acres. Where should I put them? We've got this map that we can throw up of a piece of property that's an example. But where should I put them? Obviously I don't want to just throw the rock out in the middle of the field. Where do you recommend putting them?
Right, and how many rocks?
Yeah, and how many?
That's how many? How many do I need? 10 rocks or what? So a good rule of thumb is 1 rock per 80 to 100 acres. That's always a good rule of thumb. Just always remember, whenever you put a rock out or a mineral site out, you need a trail camera on it. If that's what if that's part of the purpose of mineral sites, is to do your trail camera surveys. So if you have 80 acres and you put 3 rocks out on it, a lot of people say, oh, that's too much. It's not really too much. You just have to run 3 cameras now. You're going to have 3 times the amount of foot traffic on your farm. You're going to have 3 times the amount of scent you're putting down. So we always try to put as least as we possibly can, but supplement our herd to what they need. So 80 to 100 acres is good. You know, I have some properties that are less than 80 acres and we have 2 mineral sites on. It's the way that property lays, you know, so how many sites is going to be really up to you. You're going to have to know your deer herd, you know, how many deer per square mile or about you have at your place. If you have a real high deer density, you're going to need more. If you have a low deer density, you'll need less. And sometimes even with like a medium deer density, you can have like 2 herds of deer using each end of a property where they would be separated between a ravine, you know, or a draw or whatever. And you could put 2 mineral licks and it would be efficient. You'd be getting all of your deer, you know, from 2 mineral licks on 50 or 60 acres. So it's really up to you to know your property well, do your homework, look at aerials, but a general rule of thumb, 1 rock per 80 to 100 acres.
That's great information. So, you know, you go back to the why a little bit for me. You know, I just think, you know, in that common sense factor, we all have, or any of you that have a mineral site, I mean, bucks start hammering it when they start growing their antler, and then when they're done growing, they seem to leave it. And I mean, it's kind of like our own bodies, you know, they seem to tell us stuff. Well, I look at the deer herds, you know, that I deal with, and they seem to tell us that. I mean, that's where the common sense comes into fact. I mean, obviously they want something in that mineral, and it's when they're growing their horns, so.
Yeah, there's no doubt, you know, and deer are probably one of the most intelligent, you know, deer, elk, you know, any kind of animal like that is probably one of the most intelligent, you know, type. It's not like a horse. You know, a horse will eat until they fall over dead. You know, they just will. And cattle will almost do the same thing too. You know, cattle or a horse will founder. You know, deer, they really eat the minimum that they need, you know, to sustain themselves. You know, and when a mineral comes around, it's rare. I have seen a few places where we put minerals out at, the deer just don't use them. You know, and it's probably, there's a few reasons it could be. You know, it could be that you're putting your mineral in an area that's a really, really rich area. Or there could be a natural mineral site somewhere close. Or you could be putting out something other than trophy rock and your neighbor's using trophy rocks. You know, and yeah, so no, but it could be another mineral site that maybe your neighbor or something have, you know, that's been there for 20 years. You know, and that's just where they've grown up and gotten used to. Not that you won't eventually get them over to you, but, you know, so there's a few factors. Yeah, sometimes they don't work 100% of the time in every area there is, but generally, that's pretty rare. Usually if you put a trophy rock out or 465 or any kind of mineral out, the deer will start using it.
Yeah, we really see that with whitetail and then elk. Mule deer, they can be a little more finicky, but overall, I mean, yeah, especially elk and whitetails, they seem to love it. So.
Yeah, for sure. So.
Well, that's great information. Next week on Beyond the Rock, we're going to talk about, you know, how we set up our mineral sites. So make sure to join us then, and we'll go over that. Be sure to like us on Facebook and Instagram, subscribe to us on YouTube, so you can kind of keep up to date on our future episodes that are coming out. Thanks for joining us.
Yep, thanks again.